from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
It's good to be with you. I'm Don Hudson. Welcome to Tennessee this week. As always, we have our panel of pundits with us. George Korda, our political analyst. Courtney Piper, our political contributor. And Craig Griffith, our healthcare analyst. Thank you all for being here. We want to talk about the special session. It happens on Monday. I'm going to try to find some things that maybe they can actually agree on. We'll see. I want to get your opinion on this. House Majority Leader William Lamberth filed legislation to provide free firearm locks, require state-approved handgun safety courses, include lessons on safe firearm storage. Democrat Rep. Dwayne Thompson filed a bill that would require all firearm safety training classes used as part of gun permitting and include information on gun locks as well. Is this an example of somewhere where there might be an agreement and something might get passed? We'll start up in the left corner there with Craig.
Well, it's difficult to say, but, it's kind of like, if you have speeding laws in the state and you get a speeding ticket, but there's no penalty for the ticket, is it going to stop speeding? These gun locks and gun storage provisions that they may be considering in the special session, they don't have any penalties for violation. They have some incentives like tax-free gun safes and things like that. But are people going to use these preventative measures if there's no penalty for not using them?
Well, if there are requirements, Courtney, I'll go to you here. If they pass laws that say this is required for the gun purchase or gun ownership to have a safety course or to get a gun lock, will that help? Can they pass that?
It could help, and there are some good things in here that are proposed, but the fact remains that a lot of what's being proposed does nothing to make sure that people who want to use guns to kill other people and harm them are not purchased. And I kind of was interested to see in the last couple of years how many mass shooters obtain guns legally versus illegally. Mm-hmm. And what I found from the National Institute of Justice was from 1966 to 2019, 70% of mass shooters purchased at least some of the weapons used in shootings legally. And then when we have more data is after 2019. So since 2019, illegally purchased guns were made by just 13% of mass shooters. So clearly we need to do more to make sure that people who are going to be using guns to kill other people don't even get them in the first place.
Well, let's just say, and I'll go to you, George, it's just a normal person. We'll use the four of us, just a normal person that doesn't maybe have anything that says, and we go purchase a gun, but then we use it in a terrible way. How would any law stop someone who just buys a gun without a restriction? They don't have any red flags on them, but then something goes haywire 3 or 4 years later and they use it in a crime.
Well, it's a what if. I mean, there was a terrorist in Nice, France, used a truck to kill 80 or more people. Timothy McVeigh bombed the Murrah building in Oklahoma City and killed a couple of hundred. I mean, I don't understand this. There are approximately 300 million some odd guns in the hands of 330 million Americans. That's how many private guns owners there are. And the idea that we're going to somehow make all of these people criminals for the possession of a gun in many cases, or the idea that you can go into their homes and say, we're going to require you to lock up that gun and put it in a box or a safe with a lock on it. And if you don't, we, the government, are going to punish you despite the Second Amendment. I mean, look, what people are talking about is not ultimately, if you want to eliminate anybody dying from a gun, and it's a terrible way to die, there's no disputing that. But in Tennessee, roughly 1,200 people a year die from guns. About 60% of them are suicides. So now we're talking about out of 6 million people. So you have to you have to balance these demands to do something against, if there are people out there who are dangerous, deal with the dangerous, but don't criminalize everybody because they're doing something the Constitution permits.
Well, then let's deal with the people who are doing things dangerously because that are killing other people when they purchase guns, because we actually have a lot of data on that, so we can focus the problem and we can address this. We know, for example, the Uvalde shooter legally purchased the guns used in that just days before the actual shooting happened. Parkland, the shooter there, legally purchased an AR-15. You know, the list goes on and on. A lot of these shooters are purchasing guns days before they actually implement the mass shooting. So if we can focus narrowly on the problem and not go into what ifs and buts and over here and look at this shiny thing here and the squirrel and don't look behind, the man behind the curtain.
Cortney, help me out here. I don't quite understand the proposal you're making here. Is it to?
I'm not making any proposal. What I'm suggesting is that we have very clear data on mass shooters in the last 4 years, and that they are purchasing guns legally, and how they are purchasing them, and what kind of guns they are purchasing. So we have very clear data that we can use to then create policy. We don't have to go.
Well, you'd have to assume that everybody buying a gun is a potential mass shooter, and you'd have to do something about them.
No, you don't. I don't know how you get there.
Well,
I don't know how you get there, George.
That's why I asked you what you were proposing.
Well, I don't know how you're getting there because I'm not.
Okay, well, let's just go back here. They purchased the gun legally, so there wasn't a red flag. They walked in, they went through. I'm going to tell you.
Do we know if there was a red flag? Are there red flag laws here?
Well,
we don't know.
I don't know. What I'm saying is those shooters. Well, we all know the stories, which shooters there were and which ones there weren't. That no one knew anything about, and sometimes they do know something about, but they didn't pass on that information. But I've purchased a gun. You get your background check when you go in and purchase a gun at Cabela's or wherever you're going to be buying it. So these people went in legally, purchased it, but then they used it for a terrible thing. So I guess my question is, how do we don't know someone's going to make a bomb. We don't know someone's going to use their car.
Certain things you can do, Don. You can, there's a 3-day waiting period.
Okay.
Which I think, probably would address George's point of guns are used more for suicides than homicides. And if you had, a 3-day period, perhaps a cooling down period, that person might think twice about using a gun to kill themselves. And then there's other things you can do. I think what the public is calling for is they do not see the reason that people can buy military style weapons with large magazines, 100 bullets. People are thinking, is that what we need in our country now? How we get to the issue of the assault weapons ban or something like that is very difficult to get to, but that's what people are pointing to. They're tired of doing nothing. They're tired of sending out our thoughts and prayers to the victims of mass crimes.
But does that mean we just do, if you're tired of doing nothing, do you end up doing something? And then it's...
Well, for example, I hear the AR-15 discussed often as an assault rifle. It's not. It is a semi-automatic weapon comparable in many ways to other types of rifles. And we've talked about this before. In the United States, out of 330 million people, there are about 400 a year who are killed with rifles of all kinds. Right. So we're talking about a tiny little group. Now, the victim in that group doesn't care what the statistics are. I understand that. Neither do the families. I recognize that. I'm not making excuses for people who pull triggers on other people. But the rhetoric doesn't match the reality. And if somebody's going to say we've got to do something about people buying guns, if you have a waiting period, if you have background checks, what else are you going to do?
Well, I mean, you can do red flag laws if something comes up, Well,
then you're suggesting that people are guilty of something only on the basis of an accusation.
Well, you have to go through due process, George.
Right.
All red flag laws have due process. And
you keep forgetting that part.
People can go to court and have their children taken away from them. I think a judge can adjudicate whether this person is willing to have is supposed to have a weapon. Just like they can do that in
So
taking.
if somebody says Craig Griffith is a danger because he's unstable, and you are then investigated under a red flag law, how are you going to feel about that?
How do you
Not
think he
bad,
gets
because I don't
investigated?
own a
What do you
gun.
think the process is?
I think
George,
that
I mean, what do you think the process is?
I don't
mean,
like
do you
the
think you
idea
just
that
go
the
to the
government can do all of these things to us absent any kind of arrest or some criminal conduct, that we
But
can
George,
be punished ahead of time.
I don't think you understand how due process works. I don't think you understand, like Craig
Of course,
said,
I
you
don't
can go to.
understand, Cortney. I'm sure you're right.
Well, I mean, you seem to be missing some fundamental steps. You don't just go to a police department and say, "Hey, this person." If we had a red flag law, "Hey, this person is a danger. Write me up." A
You
thing
don't
that lets him
understand
not
what I'm
purchase a
saying.
gun.
That automatically makes you suspect as having something wrong with you as soon as you're investigated.
No.
Oh no, nobody would notice that. Nobody would think, hey, what might be wrong with Cortney if they're looking at her for a red flag law issue? Nobody would think that.
Who's they? Like, who's they?
Well, the justice system, police, and as a former police officer, when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, there might be a problem there," you immediately say, "Well, let's go find out if there's a problem." Where there might not be a problem, or there might be a problem. So
Then you find out if there is or there isn't. It's due process.
But that, because we need to take a break, get to some other topics. We'll take this break. Be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. One of the things on the governor's list, one of the items on the governor's list for this special session, there were several things: mental health, crime reporting, identifying felons, safe storage of firearms. One thing that people haven't been talking a lot about is human trafficking. 8 Tennessee counties, including Knox County, have reported more than 100 cases in the past 24 months. It's human trafficking stats in Tennessee say that every day several children are sold, leased, rented, whatever you want to use, whatever terrible term, for sex. It's going on everywhere in Tennessee. It's going on other places too. But the human trafficking, and this is just me evaluating as a news person, seeing the stories that roll in, this is probably a bigger problem than guns, but no one's talking about it. I mean, the victims, there are way more victims of human trafficking, and sadly, until they're found and freed, living a horrible, horrible life. This is one of the items on the agenda. Will anything get passed on this? What needs to be done in Nashville to help solve this problem? We'll start this segment with Cortney.
Well, again, the topic is certainly worthy of discussion. I don't know if it should be its own special session, or if this is something that should be taken up in January when the legislature reconvenes, but it's certainly a big problem. And I would suspect it's a really big problem in Tennessee just because of how interstates intersect in our state. There's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of commerce that goes through our state. So I'm assuming that exacerbates the problem for us. It's easier to move people in this case. So certainly worthy of discussion. And yeah, it's a tough problem, but that doesn't mean that we, sit here and wring our hands and do nothing about it.
George?
Well, to your point, Don, I suspect it is a much bigger problem than guns. And I wish we'd stop calling it human. I'm not criticizing you at all, but I wish society would stop calling it human trafficking, because that minimizes it somehow. It's not human trafficking. It's putting children into sexual slavery,
right? Which
is exactly what it is. And I went to see it. I didn't want to go see it, but I made myself see The Sound of Freedom.
Right.
And it was an important movie, but man, it's hard to watch. And there's nothing awful in what's depicted. It's what is going on behind the curtain. And these are children. These are little kids. And it's more than just a big problem. It is a national and international scandal and tragedy. And the only reason I can think of why it's not addressed more directly or talked about, because there's money in it somehow. Well, I know there's money in it.
Right.
And somehow that's affecting how this works. Plus it's so in the shadows, it's hard to dig it out. But it needs to be dug out. These kids are suffering.
Craig?
Yeah, it's a terrible crime. And getting to Courtney's point about Tennessee being, the junction of so many interstates, that's the same reason, many of the drugs that were imported, from the southern part of Florida went right up I-75 through Knoxville, through Tennessee.
Right.
So you have that same geospatial issue that you have. But I think it's going to take a concerted effort of, law enforcement all across the state and the federal government to make inroads into stopping this, to stopping the children from being stolen, stopping the children from being used as sex slaves. It's a difficult problem, but I think a unified effort in getting these areas where they're used and sold identified and shut down could be something that a unified government could address.
Right. It seems like it gets support from both sides of the aisle, so to speak. And since George brought it up, that Sound of Freedom movie, maybe that makes it more in the public eye. I mean, that movie did just as well as the new Indiana Jones movie.
Actually, it's beating Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible.
Yeah. So maybe that'll be the thing that helps propel this forward. Next subject in this segment is we've talked about this behind the scenes, but Knox County Commissioner Kyle Ward is asking the governor to use the downtown Knoxville pedestrian bridge money that was earmarked for that for a mental health center instead. I think it's 20 million, 25 million was set aside to build a pedestrian bridge over the river by UT. Could both be done? Is one more important than the other? And will they go forward with the bridge before a mental health center?
Well, a mental health center, you might be able to build something for 20 million, but you certainly couldn't fund it continuously for that. And the state got out of that business. At Lakeshore Mental Health Institute, which is now Lakeshore Park, at one time, at its peak, according to numbers I've read, there were 2,800 patients at Lakeshore Mental Health Institute. And now there are none. And that means you can extrapolate that, put it now today, all of those people who would have been there, they're out somewhere. And usually it's homeless and they've got mental problems, and it's a terrible issue. But the idea that you're going to take $20 million and build a mental health hospital, and somehow the state, which got out of the mental health business when it got out of Lakeshore and Clover Bottom and Nashville, et cetera, is going to pony up a lot of money for that is a little hard to think it'll happen.
I would disagree that they got out of that business. It's relocated. And it represents real problems for law enforcement and for people suffering with mental health problems here, because in the area in Knoxville and around, you have to drive to Moccasin Bend in Chattanooga. And so if you're a police officer having to do, escort someone who needs a psychiatric evaluation down there, that's what, 90 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles round trip, taking them off of the streets when they should be doing other things. But it's interesting that this resolution came up to county commission, because in researching the bills that have been brought up for the special session, there's Bill HB 7006, and the caption reads is to pay for additional private psychiatric services for the uninsured. But if you read further along, it also says that there should be a study for the need of inpatient psychiatric services in the city of Knoxville. And that should be reported to both to the leaders of the House and the Senate. And there should be discussion about monies needed to build psychiatric service facilities in the city of Knoxville. So I'm wondering if there's been some discussion behind the scenes that, you get this money from the bridge, and perhaps we will augment it with other monies that we pass under HB 7006. So it'll be interesting. Now, I don't think Randy Boyd's going to go down without a fight on his bridge from South Knoxville to the new entertainment district that they want to build there near Neyland Stadium. So it's going to be, it'll be a political fight that they'll have to make to get this bridge money diverted to something else. Even though I do agree with there's a need for psychiatric services in Knoxville, that I think Governor Haslam did not do us a favor by closing all psychiatric services in Knox County.
It's also a pretty false choice for a county commissioner to pull one random thing out of the budget and say, not that, this. Tennessee is in a really healthy position financially.
Right.
Business is booming. We are doing great in the state of Tennessee. And it is a completely false choice to just pit two things against each other and say, well, you can have this, but you can't have that. So, if we want to talk about mental health, if we want to talk about mental health facilities, let's have that conversation and not start pitting projects against each other, because we don't need to do that.
Yeah. I
Hey,
think
Don, one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Both Tom Spangler, Sheriff Spangler, and Sheriff Jones before him have been on my radio show and have both said they're spending better than $500,000 a year on psychotropic drugs for prisoners at the detention center, Knox County Detention Center.
right. Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot of money being
It's the largest mental facility in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be.
No, I was going to say the same thing, Craig. It shouldn't be. All right, let's take one more break. We'll come back with the final segment. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Knoxville, a judge in Knoxville, I should say, facing a challenger. This really shocked me. For the first time in 20 years, since 2003, the current city judge, it's Judge John Rawson. He's held the position for 35 years. Just so everyone in fairness gets their name out there, Mary Ward, Andrew Beamer, and Tyler Cavanis are all running for that same position and all have their reasons. And the current judge has his reasons. I look at something like this and say, this race, like some offices in Knoxville and Knox County, requires voters to vote on someone or some type of job that they probably don't know enough about. Should there be two questions? Should there be term limits? And do you think some of these types of positions should just be appointed by the mayors who are elected for the county and the city?
Well, the city judge, and I've known John Rawson very well.
Right.
And
this is nothing against him. This is just.
Yeah, I think he's just a class guy. And not saying anything negative about the other people. I don't know them. But the city judge does traffic, it's code enforcement, animal control issues. And so there are things that affect people in the city. And the judge's job is to make judgments based on the law. And I don't know that the city voters can't make up their minds on this one. I don't know that first of all, I'm not even sure what the change would require to make it appointed. But I think if voters want to select this judge, they should be able to do it.
There are multiple judges in the Knox County that get elected. The general sessions courts, the chancellor courts. So it's not unusual. And you'll never have any of those. Those are all state constitutional offices. And then you would have to change the state charter for the entire state of Tennessee, or a state constitution, to get that changed. So there's nothing wrong in concept of electing judges. And I know John as well. I worked with him for years when I was with the city. So I think the question is, should this be term limited? It did not apply, I think, when we did the term limit laws. So it's up to the voters to say, John, you've had the position for long enough. We need new blood. Or, John, you've done a good job for these last 30 some years. Keep up the good work. Right. And we'll find that out.
I contributed to Tyler Cavanis's campaign, so I'll disclose that up front. And also I want to say, I think it says a lot about what the most powerful elected position in the city of Knoxville might be if you haven't received a challenger in the last 20 years. And, that's the person that can get you out of parking tickets and dirty lot tickets and citations and that sort of thing. So, and I think the reason why Judge Rawson has received this amount of challengers is the driving incident that he was involved with in Middle Tennessee when he was going the wrong way up an exit ramp. So he was going the wrong way, and that made news. And I think that's what made a lot of these candidates sort of sit up and go, the voters need a choice. And we should give them that choice. And voters have, I firmly believe that no one should get a free lunch in an elected office.
And we are out of time, but I need
John Rawson is a very good man.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. This was not to just point him out. It was an example.
Sounded like it.
No, no. This was an example. The only example I had to say, wow, someone hasn't been challenged for that long, and been. Maybe there should be term limits. Maybe there shouldn't. Again, and I'm not making any comments about him. I just want to make sure. But we are out of time. See you next week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.